They've been eager for the money since
So then what was the problem?
going through the process to get the agreement approved. Even just, and unfortunately, it should have come down with the other 5 last year. It just wasn't ready to come down with the packet. So what happened was, those 5 came downtown. We waited to get those back, and then we sent this one. And so, even coming through this process, I think it's been downtown since, September, October. So it just going through.
Well, I mean, I know what that's like, from our end, but I tell my staff, you got to dog this stuff. You got to dog it. Somebody's got to dog it wherever it is until it happens.
This was from the first group of projects that were approved.
The 16?
And at that time, we didn't realize by having a 7-year project life that would be a 7-year agreement that would need to come to City Council for approval.
Don't be blaming it on City Council.
Oh. No, I'm not.
Okay,
no, I'm not at all. I'm not at all.
Okay, good, because that's not where the delay was.
Not at all. Not at all. I think, but like we're going through now, we have another request for projects that are due February 22nd, and we're, the people who apply tell us how long they want their project life to be.
Right.
We're suggesting try to keep it around 3 years, because we can get the agreements done a few months earlier if we.
I take great issue with that. The 2 years has nothing to do with the City Council.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. I'm not trying to.
It sounded like it was all internal,
No.
and with you guys that took so long.
It was internal and getting the
you don't need to try to talk people into doing it so it doesn't go to City Council.
No,
especially with me here as Chair of Commerce, I want this stuff to happen. I lived in San Pedro when this whole China shipping mitigation went down. I understand this whole issue. So with me as Chair of Commerce, we'll move this stuff quickly when it comes our way.
Absolutely.
So I don't think you need to try to get them to have their agreements under 3 years just so it doesn't have to come to City Council.
Well, I think
you want to do what's best in terms of.
I think it would be best to get them done as quickly as possible and then be able to come and show you all the projects that have been implemented. Because there have been a lot of good projects that have been implemented and a lot of work done in trying to get.
Do we have benchmark studies in terms of the projects that have been implemented?
We have.
And what reduction in emissions we're seeing?
We do have information. Each of the applicants reports to us annually on fuel usage and those types of things.
Could I get an update of all the projects and how many have been approved? 16 have been approved.
16.
5 have been implemented.
16 have actually been implemented. Well, this one, except this one. We've had about 14 implemented.
Well, 5 were approved last August.
Right. And there were others that were approved at the port level. And then we have another $9 million in projects, which would be 23 projects that were recently approved in December by the Board of Harbor Commissioners, and we've referred 9 of those now to the Mayor's office for referral to City Council. So those are coming. Those will be here very
just
soon.
Make sure, we once they get on our end, make sure we know, because we can, we'll dog them on this end.
Okay.
What about the status of the 10 remaining projects that were originally approved by the board?
The 10 of that of the
first 16.
Of the first 16.
Right.
Some of those don't have to come downtown, and it's just based on the
where are they?
The contract. The projects have been implemented.
10.
The projects have been implemented. The applicants have upgraded their equipment, and we are tracking their progress.
Okay.
Yeah, my name's Christopher Patton. I'm an environmental affairs officer with the port, and Teresa works for me. I just want to emphasize, yes, in terms of the status reporting on all the projects underway.
Right.
We do get regular reporting on performance, as well as their ability to achieve the emission reductions compared to what they proposed.
Right.
And it also contains a section talking about implementation or operational problems. We are compiling all that, and clearly one of the things we're going to do is give back to our commission and to this committee a rundown on what the achieved emission reductions are from all of the money spent.
Yeah, I don't have enough information in front of me, so I would like a much better report next time. If you're saying that the 10 projects that were approved by the board are already being implemented, okay, I need a much better status report on this for my own information. So why don't you come back and Well, this one, when will this one get going? Once we
soon as
approve
it's
it?
signed, as soon as
Okay.
it's signed.
So we need what, like, 6 months or something to start looking at the progress and the emission reduction and?
We have the 9 projects that are going to be referred here, and maybe at that time, would that be a good time then to do
Okay, when
a
is that?
status update? Well, I think they were just referred to the mayor's office on January 31st, so I'm not sure what the
So
process.
we need reports from the CAO.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
It was forwarded to our office yesterday.
Oh,
all right, so how many months so we could have a good status report on all these
We
projects?
can get our report done in a minimum of 2 weeks. And then we'll send it back to the mayor's office per executive director for.
But when will I know, when will I be able to, really look at progress?
I would suggest
3
that.
months, 6 months?
I would suggest that we couple a status report on all the projects in place with the next batch of projects that are going
Okay.
to come down for your consideration.
Okay.
And, whether that's 90 days or 120 days, we hope that it'll be quick. But at that point, we should have committed
Okay.
about $15 million to projects, and we should be able to
Yeah,
at
to
least
show
report on the
something.
first
So 3
batch.
months, how about 3 months? Is that good from now? A good status report on every project, how much money's been spent, and particularly if we could look at some benchmarks.
Sure.
And, this is good for all of us. It's good for you, too, because there's always a sense in the community that we don't know where we are on these projects. We don't know if this money's being spent. There's a perception that none of this money's being spent, which
Right.
a lot of it hasn't been spent. So let's, say out loud,
I agree.
what we're doing, what projects are being funded by this, because I think that's important. We hear a lot of other projects where port money is being spent, but this one is this is a whole significant
Correct.
process in itself, and we need to, and I need to be better informed and in turn be able to inform the community.
I do want to emphasize one thing that Teresa mentioned, and that is that we do have an RFP out right now that closes in about a week that would that would utilize the balance of the available monies under the air quality element of this settlement. It is its focus is on hovercraft, but it's certainly open to other project types. And we want to turn those proposals around and try to get them into approvable contracts as soon as
How
possible.
much more money is left in the air quality mitigation incentive program?
Go
about
ahead.
8.9 million.
8.9. Do you know how much more money is available in the aesthetic mitigation fund?
We have, there actually are 2 projects going to the Board of Harbor Commissioners on February 21st, and after that, there'll be about 5 million, or about 4 million left for Wilmington, and about 8 million left for San Pedro.
Okay, and that was
with the
originally 13 million for San Pedro and 10 million for Wilmington.
And of that, about that 4 million left, there are projects that have been recommended by the community for implementation, and we're going to work, we don't have really enough information right now for staff to do feasibility on those projects, so we're going to go back to the applicants and get some more information.
So there's a total of about 21 million left that we have not been able to spend. Okay,
Yes.
yeah, and I think that's what's frustrating.
Yeah,
agree.
I would say that we've had much greater success in committing the air quality money than
Right.
the aesthetic money.
I agree.
And I think you're aware of some of the
Estate
issues.
lands seems to be a little more approving of the air quality mitigation as opposed to the aesthetics.
Right.
They have a fundamental flawed belief that there is no aesthetic mitigation necessary for port impacts. So if they fundamentally believe that, then we have problems. Okay, good. Well, come back and just a much more, you know what I mean, detailed,
we can give you a more
informative.
exhaustive rundown
Yeah.
specifically on the dollars spent
Yeah.
and what we're getting for those
And
dollars.
what we're getting for the dollars, and what the community is enjoying as a result of that, the benefits.
Right.
Okay, thank you. I do have Arnold Sachs would like to speak on this item.
Good morning, Arnold Sachs.
Good morning,
What I
Arnold.
actually wanted to speak, well, I will speak on this item, but I also wanted to speak about something because it mentions Board of Harbor Commissioners and City. I was wondering when you're going to call the harbor, people who did the work on San Pedro for the walk, the
waterfront.
waterfront. You're going to have them come back for a review.
Yes.
So I'm holding you to that. Okay?
Thank you, and I'm holding them to that.
Well, I haven't seen it on the agenda, so. And then I just wanted to know about this. I'm not really familiar with this item, so I'm not going to get in a whole lot into it. But
Oh, that's never happened
hopefully,
before, Arnold.
this is true. From this process, I understand, I just heard that they have an RFP out now. From this process that involves a 2-year delay on spending funds, hopefully new processes will be initiated so that when the RFP is awarded or looked into and the bids are awarded, there won't be a 2-year delay in carrying this funding over,
Right.
and there can be a learning curve that would
Right.
be part of the review.
Right.
That's
I'm
what I
with
have
you.
to say.
Thank you.
you.
Said that perfect. Thank you. We're now joined by Councilmember Bill Rosendahl.
Indeed a pleasure.
I'm glad you're here. We're still waiting for Tom Abond. He's supposed to be here any moment. So let's go to item 2. Let's take action on item 1. We approved that item, but we've asked them to come back in 3 months with an exhaustive status report on all the projects which are receiving money out of the China shipping.
Yeah, it's quite interesting for me to see what mitigation are they really doing, how is that money really being spent, because that's the whole story here. So I look forward to the chair's 90-day report back.
Thank you. Okay.
So, excuse me, is that a committee recommendation?
Yes.
Okay.
Moved in second.
Okay.
Under-
Item 2.
Under item 2, the Board of Harbor Commissioners submits for council approval a permanent board order and ordinance to amend Port of Los Angeles Tariff Number 4 by adding new provisions to implement a progressive ban on aging drayage trucks operating at the port. This is part of the Clean Air Action Plan that has been jointly developed by the two ports so that by the year 2012, all drayage trucks operating at the ports will meet or exceed the EPA's emission standards for state or federal heavy-duty diesel-fueled on-road 2007 trucks. CAO has submitted a report and recommendation for approval of this ordinance to amend the tariff.
Excellent. This is very exciting. This is one of the biggest steps I think we've ever taken between both ports. So who would like to give us, who's here to speak?
I'm here to speak.
Captain John Holmes.
John Holmes, the Deputy Executive Director for Operations, Port of Los Angeles. This is, as you know, Councilwoman, the first part of a number of a basically 4-part tariff. The first is the truck ban. The next item is the tariff fee. And then we are working jointly with the Port of Long Beach on 2 other pieces. One is the grant funding piece, which is being worked by our finance people. And the 4th piece is a permit process where companies that work in the port would have to adhere to some basic standards. So we're working actively now with the Port of Long Beach on the other 2 pieces. We meet routinely with them, and there's an expectation that there's going to be a joint board meeting by the end of this month to look at the financing piece, and then the last piece would be a process by which a company would be able to do work in the port if they submitted a permit. And we are working with Long Beach on the details of that permit right now. And then in addition to that, as you're well aware, the mayor of Los Angeles and the mayor of Long Beach are having conversations on what the the people that work in the port, the mix of employees versus independent owner
Right.
operators, and that's
So
on.
basically, the first step was to set forth this policy that talked about the dirty diesel polluting trucks, and they will literally be
Not allowed. in the
not
port.
allowed to come in and out of both port complexes. And it's a timeline starting this fall, right?
Yes, October. Pre-1989 would be
So
October.
October, pre-1989 truck engines would no longer be allowed. Second piece of this is
A tariff.
a tariff.
That would be charged to basically two things. One is incentivize people to change out their trucks faster.
Right.
And the second piece would be to pay for the replacement and have grant programs principally.
And that hasn't been completely figured out yet.
It has been, I would say, largely figured out, but what we have most recently hired a company to look at all of the levers that could be put in place. Because what you want to do is really go to the cleanest possible technology. So we're trying to figure out ways that we can work with the tariff and exemptions to encourage people to go to things like LNG trucks or
Right.
electric trucks.
And the third piece is the idea, we're calling it the concessions,
Yeah, it's been called concession, license, permit, but it basically...
where we actually take a look at the actual drivers and whether or not we can move to a policy, which I support. We move to a policy that makes the companies employers and the truck drivers employees with wages and benefits that would
And I would
be
say
acceptable.
both ports absolutely support the idea of raising the standard for the people that dray a cargo in and out of the port, and
Right.
the details are being worked out, and at this
Right.
point, there's a lot of discussions going
Right.
on between the mayor's office in Los Angeles and the mayor's office in Long
Right.
Beach.
Because clearly, I mean, the first thing, I mean, I obviously support too, the first thing is getting rid of the dirty trucks. But I also think there's a human element to this whole goods movement and air quality mitigation issue, and that's drivers who right now barely making a living, and some of them are deciding not to take these jobs anymore. And I think as the good movements, our projections increase, I think that's a problem. And I'm a staunch believer in paying these truck drivers a living wage with health benefits, and I think that really then makes a healthy environment, not just in our air, and certainly in people's quality of life. So,
And we would agree. And the other issue that we seriously have to consider is the whole idea of sustainability of the industry.
Right.
If we don't raise the standard, are we going to have a sustainable drayage industry? And we need to
Right.
make sure that we have that.
Right.
So that's very important.
okay, again, never been done before. Huge, bold, courageous, the right thing to do. Should have been done a long time ago. However, how is this actually going to work? What kind of outreach has been done? October, rolls around and someone pulls up into the port with a pre-1989 truck. Are they caught off guard? Are they shocked that this is happening? Do we literally shoot their tires out when they try to drive through? How does this work?
And I think that's a very good question, and that's the piece of it that I'm responsible for, is the idea of how do you operationally implement a program like this.
Yeah.
And I would say that for those people who are regular customers, this program is very much aware to them.
Okay.
We also recognize that we do in the port get those infrequent flyers, so to speak, where, for example, somebody overseas orders a bulldozer and some company picks it up in Iowa and takes it to the Port of Los Angeles.
Right.
So what we're working on now is ways that individuals, if they came in and that, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule.
Right. Do we have a grace period?
We might not have a grace period, but we might have somebody comes in, is unaware of it, has to go to a trouble window and gets a pass for the day. And the other thing that may happen, as you're well aware, is somebody may come in on a clean truck and they're not enrolled in the program, and we have to have a way, because our goal is to keep clean trucks. So
Right.
if somebody comes in from a large trucking company that doesn't know about it, we have to have a means where they can come in for the day.
Right.
And we also are working nationally with trying to do a national register where people in wherever in the country could enroll in the program.
So say this guy comes in with a dirty truck and never heard about it before, but, loves the idea, and how do I get a clean truck?
Yeah.
He says.
Well, and
Because I'm a driver, this is my job, I love being in this business. I'm a good truck driver. This is my livelihood. I've always seen myself drain this cargo. How do I get a clean truck?
And if he's a driver that comes in routinely into the port and meets the requirements, we have both in the operational, we're going out with several RFPs, but both from the operational perspective and the grant perspective, a large component of the RFP is the outreach component. And as part of it, we're hiring a company will be hired. Their specific job will be to outreach to truck drivers and the industry on specific parts of the program.
And how many of these pre-89 trucks are right now calling on the port?
I think that our figures, and I can defer to Chris, is about 2,000. The trucks will fall off the table in October.
Correct.
And then there's a timeline.
There's a timeline for other trucks that's spread over a 5-year period.
Okay.
So one of our I'm not saying a crisis, but our focus is right now is the financing piece, because if we're going to lose 2,000 trucks in October, we've been working
What's the next benchmark after October?
January 1st of 2010, that's the big one. That's where all trucks model year 2003 and older must be compliant.
Wow.
And that represents about between 90 and 95% of the operating fleet.
Wow. Okay.
And it adds to the calculus, because what we want to do is get the trucks off the road, period.
Right.
So we have to work into the grant funding and the funding mechanisms that somebody's got to turn in a truck and scrap a truck, because we don't want to shift Los Angeles, Port of Los Angeles, Long Beach's problems to Oakland or Seattle or Mexico. So what we're trying to do is develop a program so that we actually get the trucks off the road, period, and not just move the problem someplace else.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to say on this issue? Okay.
Now, let me just take one sentence here that is pretty amazing for me, which will require the entire fleet, that's 16,000?
16,800, almost 17,000.
To meet this, the year 2007, through replacement or retrofit within the next 5 years. So you will show us, or you have shown us, a 5-year plan, how it all gets implemented.
There's a 5-year implementation plan that we're working on, yes.
What about Ms. Hahn's comment about the health of the worker, meaning a living wage and these kind of things? How do we tie that into some way, or can't we?
Well, and that's what the discussions are, and we're looking at, I think that the position of the mayor of Los Angeles and the position of the Port of Los Angeles, obviously, is that in order to do this, the most efficient means is to encourage, instead of independent owner-operators, encourage the truck drivers to be employees of the companies. And that way they would get some of the benefits that they do not get. They don't get workman's compensation. They don't get medical right now. So we have there's an industry that's been created, which is sort of a, guerrilla trucking industry, and guys take the jobs. And I think one of the principal components, in addition to the environmental component, is to raise the standard of living for the people that work in this industry.
Are the Teamsters involved in this with you?
The Teamsters certainly are interested in this and would like to. I think if people become employees, I would think that they would want to get involved and try to organize.
So, all right, 2010, does that mean retrofitting some of these after 89 vehicles? Before 89, they can't be retrofitted?
Well, certain trucks can be retrofitted, but financially with the grant programs, a retrofit doesn't buy you a long period of time. So it's really, we're trying to arrange the program not only to encourage the behavior we want, which is cleanest available technology, LNG, electric, but it's actually better for somebody to go for a grant for a new truck than it is a retrofit. Although retrofits are possible, the finances work out. It's just better for somebody
Good point. And new trucks, are we creating new trucks that are clean?
There are new trucks that are clean, and there's certainly an LNG trucks out there, and the port.
I was going to ask that too. Is the market ready for this?
The market would love us to do this yesterday.
Okay, so
particularly the market for clean diesels.
The product is out there. There's available product on these kinds of trucks.
And our finance people have talked directly to a lot of the big trucking companies, Freightway, Peterbilt, Volvo, and they say you make the orders, we'll start building the trucks. The only supply-demand problem we may have is with LNG trucks, because right now there's only one company, Cummins Westport, that builds the LNG engines. But there are several companies that are very, very interested in basically, if you create the market, they will.
Let me ask you this.
But we've created, let me just follow up. We've created the market.
Right.
So are they,
Which
are
is
they
why they're
starting?
interested in.
And I want them to, I don't want them to wait till October.
Oh, no.
Start.
And we've had discussions with all of them now. If we
Okay.
said tomorrow that we're going to grant 500 LNG trucks, these guys would be able to build it. It's
So
not.
They're still waiting for you to.
Well, because we're not
Do
waiting for us,
yeah.
but what we're doing, because if you're familiar with the Gateway Cities program,
Yeah.
the Gateway Cities program, the drivers, the price on the truck is a premium. And what we're trying to do with our purchasing power is go directly to some of these manufacturers, and we can decrease the cost of the truck significantly by doing that.
Okay, go ahead.
We had a display last week of electric trucks and cars.
Yes.
Are you familiar with those electric ones?
Yes, we will, and that's actually Mike's project, but we are putting a lot of money into prototyping an electric truck. It's got some challenges, but it's been looking promising so far.
Yeah,
Mike,
kind of like,
you
can
did
it
it.
make it
We
over the
hope to.
bridge?
Well, that's
I used
ultimately.
to have an
Councilwoman,
electric
that's-
vehicle, and every time there was a hill in San Pedro, I got nervous.
We hope to, and we will certainly invite you down. With sometime in the next few weeks, we will start the trials on this joint AQMD port electric truck initiative. I've gone out, I've looked at the vehicle. It's very impressive.
Have you looked at the ones from China?
I've not seen the ones from China yet.
They're all at Santa Monica Airport. We're involved with them. They've come to me. I don't know if you can tie it into some of these other Chinese issues that we have going, but they are producing electric trucks right now.
We've seen the light-duty trucks. The thing that makes this trial unique is this is a heavy-duty. This is a 60,000-pound payload tractor that's designed to run a full-duty cycle within the harbor. And like I say, the proof will be in the pudding. We'll see that down in the harbor within the next few weeks, and we're going to start putting it through trials.
I want you to meet with Alex Fay of my staff, who's working with the electric truck people to see if there's some compatibility with what we've been seeing the last couple of weeks.
And so
I'd be delighted to.
And so does this technology, this involves charging them up every so often, or is this
What we're
new and better technology than when I first had my EV1?
It is, in that there's been a lot of microprocessor technology that has gone into this vehicle. In fact, they've used a lot of the same engineers that have done the energy management systems for the Toyota Prius. While it's not a hybrid, it's a straight electric.
Right, so that's what I mean, does it have to be
It's designed
charged?
with a fast charge feature, and at the end of the shift, it has to charge.
Okay, so we're preparing for that as well by are we building in chargers?
Yes, the trial, we're
In
going
all
to bring
the
a fast
terminals?
charger down with, for the trial, and they're fairly simple units. The fast chargers can go a lot of different places. So we're very encouraged by this because it poses a potential solution to the close-in drayage that affects
So they're easier to plug in than the ships, is what you're saying.
much easier.
What a hoot. Wouldn't that be nice?
Okay, Mr. LeBlanc.
Just three quick things on this issue here. You got LADWP involved in any of this?
We do, Councilman Labange. In fact, we're very encouraged that we formed, our Harbor Commission formed a joint electrification committee with
Good.
DWP.
All right, so that's good.
And we're meeting regularly.
All right, good. You got the LA Unified Harbor Occupational Center involved in this at all?
I'll have to check on.
Let's see, I mean, training, conversion trucks, they're right there in the harbor. I went to Occupation in the Valley when I was in high school, and I know they're very committed towards trade training and that issue there, too. I also want to know, I just traveled the state east, and when you come into California, there's big truck checkpoints. Possibly you could work with the CHP to get a banner up there or something that said, check with the Port of Los Angeles, the green, clean port, for the, requirements, so truckers who are crossing the country, who may not on this trip come into the port, do. If I was a sociology student in college right now, as I was 35 years ago, I would do a study on these truck drivers as far as their own evolution as individuals who are trying to make it. It's a very tough business.
It is a very tough business.
Very tough business, and they bought probably secondhand trucks, third-hand trucks from coast-to-coast haulers, so it's a phenomenon. And what we're trying to do here, I know, want to try to help everybody get their boat to rise, as if, I guess is as
Or
the
their
term,
trucks
their
to
truck
rise.
to rise, or whatever the right term there. I would contact Willie Nelson. Willie's into biodiesel, and I don't know if that could
He's
spark
performing at,
Staples, so if you or I will go, or Billy, whoever could go
Billy, I
visit
like
with him.
Billy.
yeah,
Okay,
February,
good.
like,
But I think we should reach out to him
tonight,
and say,
tomorrow night.
if there's a way to talk about this in a way, to try to convert and
I think it's
transform that.
Kodak Theater. Nokia, that's right,
Nokia Theater.
Nokia, no,
Yeah.
tonight.
Tonight,
I wanted
so
to
we
get
should-
tickets, I didn't get them.
We should reach out or do something to say, hey, the Port of Los
Go
Angeles.
backstage, let's go
Okay,
backstage.
okay, good, we'll do that again there. I got two other things that I have to do, but I'll try to do that. But I think we should get a spokesperson to talk about that. But I also think the checkpoints throughout the state, whether it's at the Arizona border or in San Clemente as they come in, would be very helpful on that. And I covered all my notes to add to the conversation. I thank you. You can move forward. You would support this.
You know what, I actually, because I think, again, one of the things that I want to make sure is just what you said, Councilmember LaBonge, is the outreach. And I think you need better marketing on this. And I like the checkpoints, but I also see some of the billboards around town about clean port. It doesn't really say anything. I mean, they're vague on what that means. I think you should start saying pre-1989 trucks will be, banned from the port starting in October. I mean, I think that message needs to get out.
That's a good point, and I think if you'd like, what we can do is have some more discussions about outreach, and
Yeah.
and I think that any ideas you have would be great.
And
Yeah,
English
and I,
and
th- I
Spanish.
and I certainly, English and Spanish. I certainly think you should get CHP involved. Obviously, our port police officers. Every time they're stopping trucks now for any reason between now and then, I think there needs to be something that you're able to hand them
Right.
that talks about this program and what they can expect and how. And again, we don't want to just ban them.
Right.
We don't want to ban the drivers. We
Understand
want to
that.
keep them in the system only in a better way.
And we have recently, or Chief Boyd has recently established a partnership with CHP, and we're going to share an inspection facility with them in the port for them to do what they do and for us
Right.
to do what we do. So
I think you need to have someone, though, to start printing out something, like you said, English and Spanish, that we can start handing to the drivers.
absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to approve this groundbreaking port tariff and move forward to a cleaner, healthier environment in and around the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles. Do I have a
And
motion to
Councilwoman,
approve?
if you would indulge us, because the chief has something that he'd like to give to you this morning.
Are we still going to do?
Sure.
Well, we can do that before we move forward, but.
Well, essentially, we wanted to really acknowledge, especially your support of the law enforcement infrastructure. You recently went with us on a visit to Israel.
I did.
And it was certainly at a critical point in time where we were learning a lot of things from the government in Israel about port security, and they were learning a lot of things about us. We also covered a bunch of homeland security issues. And during that time, it really struck me, especially while we were on the border of the Gaza Strip,
Yes.
your specific interest and your support of law enforcement here in the city of Los Angeles, especially at our critical infrastructure sites. So we wanted to bring something just to acknowledge.
Here you go.
your support. I don't know if you have.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Wish I had my camera. Does this work?
Good.
No, it's not. Oh, yeah, it probably is.
We didn't bring a
Thank
photographer.
you, thank you. Oh, that's great. Oh, look, this is great. Thank you. Thank you. This, my friends, was an amazing, not on the agenda, so I hope the city attorney doesn't get us for this, but we took a side trip to Sderot, which is a village right up by the Gaza Strip, where this town daily gets bombed by these Qassam rockets. The week before we were there, this town got 50 rockets in one day. So here we are standing in front of this stockpile of all these rockets that they kept in this town, all with chalk marks on the day they hit. And we were pretty amazed that by the time the reconnaissance came that these rockets were going to hit this town, the people had 16 seconds to try to make it to one of the bomb shelters that were scattered around. We kept our eye on the bomb shelters at every moment, so we knew how fast we had to run. But thank you very much. It was a very eye-opening trip. I actually would like to maybe schedule in this committee a report on, particularly with as it relates to port security, on what we learned from our trip to Israel, but more importantly, this partnership that we are going to have now, where we're going to share training ideas and information about security measures that both of us, I know, are taking very seriously. That's a great photo in front of those rockets. Anyway, they thought we were crazy that we went there, but it was a very great trip. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
thanks for coming with us on the trip.
Thank you. I was a good traveler, huh?
You were a great traveler.
Thank you. Okay, that was approved. Thank you very much.
Yes, no. Under item 3, we have the related ordinance and amendment to the tariff to add the provisions on the to establish a clean truck fee to be paid by the owners of the cargo, collected by the terminal operators at a rate of $35 per 20-foot equivalent unit for every container entering or exiting the port by drayage truck. And this would establish a clean truck fund for the deposit of the fee revenues, would also provide terminal operators with the option of using optical character recognition readers to confirm compliance with the clean truck program requirements prior to entry to the terminals by the trucks. The CAO has submitted a report and recommendation for approval of this ordinance.
Okay, so this is kind of like how it works. Is this,
Yes,
Okay.
this is how the funding is collected and who pays.
so explain it to us briefly.
Yeah, well, briefly, a 40-foot container, the price to bring in or out a 40-foot container would be $70.
$70.
That would be collected by the beneficial cargo owner, the Target, Walmart.
Right.
It would be paid by the beneficial cargo owner and collected by the terminals, and then that would go into a fund, and that fund would be used to for the grant program, so that the people that we talked about
Right.
could get clean trucks. It's great.
Great. And so you're actually having the RFID. So that means all these.
For us, that's for the operations guys, that's the most exciting part, because the RFID for the environmental requirements will allow us to build an RFID and gate systems similar to those
And what
that
we
we saw
saw.
in Israel, yes.
Yeah, those were pretty impressive.
And we, there's a whole bunch of technology, GIS technology, where we can track the trucks. But, so this is one of those things that will make the port, it'll be great for the environment, but it'll also be great for security. And I think that idea is very relevant, to the point that we've been invited to Hong Kong in March to talk about the connection between environmental initiatives and security initiatives, and using the systems to bolster both the programs.
So when we saw those gates in Israel, every
Right.
truck was ID'd.
Right.
Every their load was ID'd.
Every driver was.
Every driver was ID'd, and all three had to match,
Exactly.
or they were immediately taken off to the side.
And we're creating a very similar system. We'll have 3 databases, one of the drivers, one of the trucks.
And the
one of-
driver
one
has
of
to
the
match
companies.
their
Absolutely.
ID.
The driver will have to match the truck, which will have to match the load, which will be pre-identified over somebody entering it into the internet. And then, of course, the TWIC card,
Right.
which is the federal part, will have to match the driver. And, we'll be, and part of this is we did get some money from the federal government to upgrade gates, and as we move forward on leases,
Right.
as we discussed,
Right.
like Traypac
Right.
perhaps, their gate will have to be compliant with all these
Absolutely.
systems.
I mean, we've got Traypac plus a number of others coming behind them, and that should all be part of the design. You all mentioned on the trip, too, that there was some concern in terms of the length of time it was going to take to register
With the TWIC,
with the TWIC.
yes. We're still concerned, and actually, to that point, we had a visit last week from Congresswoman Harmon's staff, and they were out here doing some fact-finding about registration and time lags.
Because
And
every longshoreman has to get registered, but also these truck drivers, they all have to get registered.
And there's about let's say 20,000 truck drivers that are going to have to register.
And again, that needs to be part of this marketing sign. I mean, you guys need checkpoints. Have you registered yet, or,
And to the
Stop
great
Be part of the team, register.
I like that.
To the
Part
great
of the
credit
team.
that particularly the ILW has encouraged early registration, the difficulty is the registration centers that the federal government put up can't accommodate the number of people that are having problems with their computers and their software, and that's one of the reasons why Congresswoman Harmon's office was out doing this. And we at the Port of Los Angeles offered them a free
Right.
registration center, which we would pay for, and we're
Now,
hoping
this timeline says by August 1st, you will have installed the RFID and the OCRs at all gates.
the first generation RFID is at our major container terminals right now, and that's
Okay.
the same system they use.
But I mean,
for
you're going to have it
PPAP.
installed, but unless they've been registered, it's not going to work.
That one piece, the
Yeah.
people piece is what we're trying to incur, why we're
Right.
trying to.
Do we really think we're going to make it by,
We're going to make the RFID system. I'm not sure the TWIC system's going to
Okay.
be in place.
okay, but the collection of the fee, you're starting
The
June
collect-
1st.
No, I would expect that it'll probably all happen on October, because you have to
okay.
have the infrastructure in before you can collect the money.
Right.
You can't start collecting the money before you know who's coming through the gate.
So June 1st is not a date. It says they'll be assessed.
I think that, and we're going to make some minor tweaks to
Okay.
the tariffs. I think that
Okay.
that's something that will slide.
Yeah.
And most everything will start in October.
Yeah. And again, if we were to survey truck drivers at this point randomly, would they know any of this was happening?
We've surveyed truck drivers, and we
And
have.
do they know
we have-
they know it's happening?
They do know it's happening. I think we still have to.
I would like to see better marketing and advertising in and around the port area.
And I think that's very relevant.
Yeah.
As I say, we will schedule with you a briefing just on the outreach program.
Okay.
So that you can feel more comfortable, or,
Okay.
make suggestions.
Okay.
Or tell us that we need to do better.
Great. Why don't we do that as part of both these items? Maybe ask for a report back on the marketing and outreach.
Okay.
Maybe in, 60 days. Okay,
Just one quick
questions on
question.
the,
You said 20,000, the 6,000 trucks, so 20,000 what, drivers?
We say there's 17, we're using a figure it's about 17,000 trucks that are frequent or sort of infrequent visitors, but the guesstimate is the number of truck drivers that you're going to register for the transportation workers identification is
Yeah.
going to be probably a little bit more than that.
Okay, do you also see that all those 17,000 trucks would go into that same clean air business as well? as part of
That's
that
what our
process?
anticipation is. Our funding numbers and our fee numbers are based on 17,000 trucks, are
That's-
based on buying or helping people buy
Now,
17,000 trucks.
have we ever looked at their driver's license and their backgrounds before these 17,000 or 20,000?
There's a requirement for the licensed motor carriers to do backgrounds on the drivers, whether, one of the difficulties is we have about 1,600 licensed motor carriers. Some, as they run the gamut from very, very reputable that scrupulously adhere to all the requirements to licensed motor carriers that are 2 or 3 trucks, and they are very good at flying beneath the radar of the port and the CHP. And
Could some of them be undocumented immigrants as well?
It's possible, and we have done some surveys, and we believe we may lose as many as, for example, 20% of our drivers when the transportation workers, the credentialing requirements come into
So
play.
20% conceivably be undocumented immigrants.
Or have a criminal record,
Right.
or there's any number of things that would exclude them.
Okay, thank you.
are we using the same, is this going to be the same technology that PeerPass used in terms of assessing and collecting these fees?
We have requested that PeerPass give us a bid on this project simply because they have a system in
Right,
place.
so they could actually take this over and do this.
It would be, we think it's the most expedient way
Yeah.
to do that. If they're not
Right.
prepared to do that, we have to be
Right.
prepared to go to another
And
large
once
technology.
all the trucks have been exchanged or retrofitted or new ones are in, does this fee go away?
Oh, the fee is to replace the trucks.
Right.
Then we there may at some point be an infrastructure fee to do some of the projects, as you know, we need to do to make the port competitive, 710 Freeway 110, any number of other things.
Not anytime soon.
Not anytime soon, yes.
Okay. Mr. LaBonge?
I'm fine.
We know you're fine, but do you have any questions?
No.
He's in
I know.
class,
I'm listening
remember.
to it. I know, I got it all.
We know
Following
you're
the
fine.
lead. I think the one thing, too, is the outreach. Also, go to places that you don't think people go, whether they're truck stops, whether they're various eating establishments where people are, and reach out to them. You know, maybe have a couple of port police in uniform or soft clothes or something, just come up and say, hey, this is for the future, and make sure it's in bilingual.
Okay, do I have a motion to
So moved.
approve?
So moved.
And seconded? And with the report back, strictly on the marketing for both these items.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you again for this. Okay.
Item 4 is consideration of motion Han Alarcon, introduced on December 18th, proposing that the council ask the port to adopt a project labor agreement in the construction of the Port Police Headquarters, and ask the port to develop and recommend a policy for approval by the Board of Harbor Commissioners to use project labor agreements in all future construction projects on port property.
Okay. This was, again, something, and I know we've got, as part of this presentation, is talk about our port-wide project labor agreement. This was specifically about the Port Police building that was going to be constructed, and it was a huge concern of mine that we were building this. How much money was this? Is this $47 million Port Police building, which I've certainly supported, and I want my Port Police officers to have a new state-of-the-art building. But it was concerning me that, you know, kind of there we go again, building a project at the Port of Los Angeles in San Pedro without a good project labor agreement in place. So everyone was concerned. We don't really want to hold up this project because we know how critical it is. But we can't just keep, you know, project by project, we can't just keep being concerned about you know, how we're building these, and we need a port-wide project labor agreement. But why don't you talk to me a little bit maybe about this specific project and some of the bids that we got and why we were okay with moving forward with this, and also talk about the overall project labor agreement that we should be putting into place any day now at the Port of Los Angeles.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Hahn. And let me start out by thanking you and your staff for facilitating a meeting as this whole thing was coming down on the police building bids. And also Richard Slauson from the Building Trades Council. We had a great get-together. I think we came out of that meeting with a better understanding of where we want to head on this. As it would pertain to this building, we did open bids and found that the low bidder was a firm called FTR. FTR is a contractor who's also doing the Hollenbeck substation for LAPD. Mm-hmm. And through these discussions, they had voluntarily agreed to have every element and every trade on this project be signatory to the building trades. So with that combined with a provision that was already in there that has the bar raised relatively high on local hire. We have a 30% local hire requirement on this contract.
Right.
That they will then be using the apprentice programs from building trades. And so we're going forward with this. Our commission approved, and we're moving forward on this building. And there's also one other iron in the fire. We have a large wharf contract that's going out to bid, and we've initiated PLA discussions, negotiations on that one under the old system. Moving forward, though, we have decided that we are going to basically join with the Department of Public Works in negotiating with building trades a department-wide PLA.
Woohoo.
And sitting next to me is Hugo Rossiter from City Attorney's Office.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And Hugo is at the point on the negotiations. I met with Public Works yesterday. We had some more discussions about that. And we're going to throw everything in on that so that the end result or our goal is a department-wide PLA for the Harbor Department.
Good. Because again, I know we want one citywide. I know Public Works is looking at one, CRA is looking at one. But it seems to me the Port of Los Angeles is the perfect entity to create this policy port-wide. So every time we do a project, and a lot of projects are coming down the pike, that we don't really have to negotiate every single time. And this is in place. It makes, obviously, for a better project. It's better work, less problems, and it really, particularly at the port, it seems amazing that we haven't had one before in terms of us being such a great labor union organization. So this is the right place to do it.
We have 2 PLAs in force in the Harbor Department right now.
On specific projects.
On specific projects.
Right.
The challenge that we always faced was the specific project negotiation process. And this is a great solution, and we're glad to be able to throw in with Public Works and take advantage of a lot of hard work that has taken place on getting them very close on their negotiations. And we'll take advantage of that, and we think we can get a department-wide PLA in place.
How soon?
Well, if I could address that. We've been working with Public Works now in the Board of Contract Administration and dealing with, negotiating with Dick Slauson of Building Trades, who's sitting back there.
Right.
And we too, at Public Works, we're doing individual project labor agreements on police stations, police headquarters, metro detention center, et cetera.
Right.
And I think both Public Works and the city attorney both said, wait a minute, there's a better way to do this.
Right.
If nothing else, because Hugo's writing individual project labor agreements over and over and over again.
Right.
And so we've been working on that, and John Reamer of Bureau of Contract Administration made a presentation to the Board of Public Works a couple of weeks ago, indicating that we were moving along. I have to tell you that it's not something that we can just say, okay, we'll get it done in 2 weeks. And the reason is because when we're dealing with a project labor agreement, first of all, the question is, how long is it? What's its term going to be?
Right.
And that's a matter of negotiation. And the very
Forever.
Infinite term agreements are not necessarily enforceable. But the idea is certainly that they will renew. But the fact is, it covers a lot of work. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions.
Right.
And we just need to make sure that both for Public Works and certainly for the port, that particular interests and needs are met. And it just takes time to work through. I think the answer is that the issues have become narrower, but even between Public Works and the harbor, the port, there are differences. For instance, the catch basin of local hire and so on may be a different criteria, and so on.
Well, you said all that to say how long?
As quickly as possible. I mean, we can certainly.
When the city attorney says quickly as possible, and when I say as quickly as possible, that's 2 different things.
Well, when you do a negotiation, if you set yourself a time limit, you can handicap yourself in some sense. But the answer is
have this done in 30 days. How's that? Have it done in 30 days. Just come back with a solution.
I think we can certainly report back as to where we are.
Okay.
I would not guarantee that it would be done within 30 days per se. I mean, it would be.
But you'd be further down the line.
Right.
Would be further down the line.
I don't think this should be necessarily tied to the Public Works agreement. If the port can move quicker and
we may actually be in a position to get Public Works quicker, but whatever.
Really?
Because we've had more specific discussions. So we are dedicated to doing this as quickly as possible.
Again, because as you know, we've got a lot of projects coming down the line, and I am one that certainly, as you all know, will hold them up if we don't have a good project labor agreement in place. So you ought to just get it in place, and let's be done with this debate every time.
And not to get into the weeds on this too much, but a critical issue that we've got to be sure and do right is the issue of local hire and small business.
Right,
and
which
so
can all be part of a project labor agreement.
Exactly, and we think they can too.
Right, I know this is the year of the rat, but I do not want to see that big old rat parked out in front of the port for every time we do a project.
We love our rats. Though.
Yeah. Okay.
Dick Slauson, you okay on this?
You know, he's got a card. He's got a card. He's going to come up and speak.
Oh, okay.
Any questions to these guys? Okay. We have 2 comment cards on this. Dick Slauson and Arnold. Do you have something to say?
Well, just prior to the comments, one of the things I wanted to make sure that from our agency, from the Port Police,
Right.
that we acknowledge, especially you three council members, supportive of our city police department, the greatest in the world, airport police department, the greatest in the world, general services, and the Port Police. But we know
Airport
that
police, greatest in the world.
all park rangers, the law enforcement community, and the fire, the best in the world. And we
Right.
travel the world, so I get to validate it.
Right.
But especially in regards to this facility, we've outgrown it. We have this
No
mission
question.
of doubling. So the timeliness could not be more stressed, and it's really important. But we don't consider this because the police officers are involved in labor.
Right.
And they don't treat this lightly either. They've received the assurances from our management that this is being well handled to their level of satisfaction. They've got to walk amongst their labor brothers as well. And
Exactly.
they're satisfied that everything that can be done is being done.
Right. I really appreciate that, Chief, for you saying that, because I don't think we ever want to, have any tension between this and certainly the port security issues that will come from outgrowing a facility and not having it be state-of-the-art. So I think we're moving in the right direction for both of those needs, our labor needs as well as and I want our Port Police officers to have a brand-new, state-of-the-art facility. They deserve it. They need it. As you said, we're going to...
We've already outgrown.
Yeah, I actually used the locker room on January 1st when I came from the Rose Parade to change into my swimming suit for Cabrillo Beach. And I could, it's way outdated, and, it's particularly as we get more female officers in the rank and file, it's clearly a facility that doesn't work anymore.
I'm a little shocked because I usually use a phone booth in my district. Why are you using just a?
Because you're Superman, and I'm a.
Love you, Jonathan.
Okay, let's. Dick Slauson and Earl Sachs, you want to come up and have a comment, and we'll approve this item.
Morning. Thank you again. Just very quickly, since you're approving projects, you're going to include other things in these agreements. Can you make sure there's a greening agreement in all these projects? Because I didn't hear anything about. I'm sure that the new construction is going to be green, but there should be a greening agreement in all kinds of future construction, so
Good
you don't have
point.
a situation like you had at LAX where, oops, we didn't green $10 billion. Thank you.
That's a good point. Richard Slauson.
Good morning, council members. I'm Richard Slauson, the Executive Secretary of the LA Orange County Building Trades Council. And I want to say thank you as well to the port staff, and especially to Councilwoman Hahn's office and staff for having the discussions that brought us to where we are today. We are very interested in completing project labor agreements, and we originally were disappointed that we didn't have one completed on this one. However, with working with FTR and the port staff, as far as we can assess right now, it is going to be a 100% union project and should satisfy everyone's interest on the project, especially to our brothers and sisters in the Port Police Department. The Building Trades Council also represents city employees, the city craft maintenance employees, who will be, I'm sure some will be housed at this facility and as well working on it in the future. We were also cognizant of the fact that this was very time sensitive, and we're happy with the outcome as well. And I just want to take the time, though, to explain a couple of things. When we have a project labor agreement, we have local hiring policies. The contractual relationships with the crafts and their contractors are amended so that they can legally utilize these local hire policies. The crafts have worked together with public agencies on the local hire programs in the past without project labor agreements as far as they can have been able to. But there are those legal hurdles that they would have to overcome in representing their own membership and the terms and conditions of their local master labor agreements as far as local hiring goes.
So just to say 30% local hire could be problematic in terms of the contracts that they've already negotiated.
I would guess that we probably would meet this anyway, but
Okay.
with the issue in a project labor agreement, we don't have those issues
Right.
to face.
So-
Because we have a contract
Right.
that says we will abide by that.
Right.
And we are looking forward to completing one. I just wanted to add to the conversation that the CRA on the 21st will be hearing both the local hiring policy and as well the motion to begin negotiations to finalize a project labor agreement there. We have been working with them for over 3 years to try to get one completed, and because of a number of reasons, it has stretched out this long of a period of time. So we're hopeful that that may be the first agreement that would be completed. One last thing, the Twix cards, I would, while John is here, I would like to set up a meeting with the port and the Coast Guard, because we have thousands of craft workers that work in and out of the port on these types of projects and down in the port, right at the docks, that will be required to have Twix cards as well. So we would like to sit down to formulate a general policy and a procedure to guide us in getting those cards as well. Like the truck drivers, we will have those issues for people that are only going to be there for a couple of days or maybe some months, coming in and out of the port working for various contractors. So we
Good.
would like to
So,
set
Captain
that.
Holmes, will you get together with and talk about it? And then just briefly on this on the Port Police building, are there things we should be paying attention to, since again it looks like it's going to be 100% labor, but it's not a project labor agreement per se? Are there benchmarks we should be looking at? How do we hold them accountable on this? How do we hold this contractor accountable?
Well, we will be holding a pre-job conference.
Okay.
I do not have a date right now with the
Okay.
contractor to go over all of those issues, and I will assure you we will let your office know
Okay.
what comes out of that, unless you would like to sit in, which we'd
Maybe.
be more than happy
Maybe.
to have
Yeah.
someone from your office.
Right.
But if there are any issues that arise, we will surely let your office know.
Absolutely.
And this committee.
Again, we don't want to see that rat in front of that Port Police building.
We have two big ones.
I know. I've had them both in my district at the exact same time. I do really want to thank Richard Slauson for your patience in this. I know this has been a priority for you, for the building trades, for as long as I've known you, and it's hard to believe it's taken this long. But I really want to thank you for continuing to be patient, to come to the table, to work these issues out, and hopefully soon we'll have project labor agreements, not only in the Port of Los Angeles, but throughout the city of Los Angeles. Thank you. Okay. Motion to move and approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay. Now, let's go quickly to this item 5 with Lou Rapoli, and then we got to go into closed session. So this is a good idea. Go ahead. Quickly.
Item 5 is consideration of motion Hans Zine, introduced on November 21st, proposing that the city attorney be requested to amend the LA Fire Code to incorporate federal and state regulations for the inspection of tank ships in Los Angeles Harbor, to eliminate redundancy between associated agencies and to ensure enforcement of these regulations.
Okay, Chief Rapoli, quickly, because we've got to go into closed session. Tell us why this is a good idea. You brought it to me, and you said how important it was. Educate everybody,
Honorable,
everybody listening.
Okay. Thank you for having me, honorable council members. Over the subsequent 3 decades, numerous changes in laws pertaining to tank ship inspections have taken place at the state, the federal, and the local level. But these laws have not been integrated into uniform inspection process as under our original plan. So in order to ensure that the LAFD can continue to prevent future maritime fire environmental hazards, action is needed to formally integrate recent laws into the uniform inspection process. This will give us a more robust inspection process where we can inspect the vessel as it comes into the port.
These are mainly for the tankers?
Tank ships only, yes.
Okay. And how many tank ships come into?
Well, they vary.
Our port?
We get anywhere. Last year we had 152. The year before that we had nearly 200. So it does change. but it is a vital importance to have
Absolutely.
tank ship inspections. As you know, December 17th, 1976, when we had the Santhony
Right.
explosion.
Right.
In 1978, we came up with this tank ship inspection program, but it's been over 30 years, 3 decades, and we need to corporately with the state, the federal, and the local agencies pull together so we can have a quality inspection process and sink more teeth into these inspections.
Thank you. I really want to thank you for bringing this forward to me, and I think this is absolutely the right thing to do. This is why I love the fact that you've got this assignment down at the Port of Los Angeles, because you pay attention to these things and you bring them to our.
I move.
So moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll approve this.
Thank you.
Good idea. Good move. Okay. Now, do I have any comment cards? No, that's public. Oh, he withdrew. Okay. Let's go. Now I believe we have to go into closed session.
Yeah, I'm going to go to council.
We're now going into closed session to talk about these issues.
Yeah, because we also
the air for a minute.
stay on the air.
Okay, was it off? Do I have to say it? We're going into closed session on a 245 airline settlement agreement, and the key features of the airline settlement are to resolve the lawsuits with United, American, Delta, Continental, and Northwest Airlines over maintenance and operation rents for the years 2006, 7, and 8. It provides for an increase in the contribution of these airlines to terminal security costs, and it provides for credits by LAWA to the airlines for disputed increases in M&O rent paid in the amount of $20 million per calendar year for the years 2006 and 7, and it provides for airlines to pay their share of future costs of new central utility plant up to a project cost of about $219 million, and it requires that LAWA and the airlines continue negotiations in 2008 regarding the future capital needs of LAX and the terminal maintenance and operation rates and charges. And we're going into closed session to talk about this and get a better understanding of what it is as a city council.
Kelly has something.
Yeah, for purposes of the Brown Act, I just want to read the case names into the record.
Identify yourself for the record.
I'm
too.
sorry, yes. Kelly Martin, City Attorney. Conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9A. This is the United Airlines bankruptcy case. Proposed settlement, Ray Delta Airlines bankruptcy, a proposed settlement, Ray the Northwest Airlines bankruptcy, and a proposed settlement of American Airlines, Continental Airlines, and United Airlines versus the City of Los Angeles. Okay.
Okay, now we'll be going into closed session. vote to uphold the
Yeah.
The board.
I just, now that we're on the record, I'd like to move this forward to the full council for further closed session deliberation, and I want to thank everybody for their involvement in this closed session.
You don't want to recommend that we, are you recommending that we uphold the
board action.
Port Commission's?
Oh, absolutely, but
Right.
again, for closed session and council for the
Right, but we
further
need to
deliberation.
send
Yes,
more-
but we're moving forward with this, we approve this and going forward with it to the council.
Yeah.